Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another thing where I talk about things. Today, I would like to talk about Steven Universe. Steven Universe, popular cartoon right now, has taken the place of other cartoons that were popular before it. Hopefully will continue on for a while, continue to be interesting. But I'm somewhat skeptical. I'm always skeptical. It's terrible. It's terrible sometimes. I can never enjoy things at a full capacity because I overthink them. And people ask me, why do you overthink things so much, Greg? And I say, I don't know, it makes me happy in a lot of different ways. Sometimes I come up with clever little answers to questions in my head, and then I'm happy. Other times I don't know. You get that stupid fan thing going on where you're just like, but if the motorcycle transforms into a gun, how does he wield it? Because motorcycles are heavy. You know, like you get into that kind of thing. But anyway, though, so Steven Universe, it's a great show. It's a little bit, I personally think it's a bit overrated, but it is a great show, and it's deserving of a lot of the attention that it's getting. I've had people talk to me about the show, and they said, like, oh, I tried to get into it for a little while, but I watched the first couple of episodes, and I just instantly hated, like, Steven. And so they asked me, like, Greg, do you think the show is any good? Should I get into it? Should I keep watching it? And I think that absolutely, yeah, it's worth giving it a couple of shots. Like watch it till, I don't know, like 7 episodes in or something like that. Because I remember when I first started watching it, I was immediately kind of turned off by it. There were a couple of weird things. Art style-wise, it's not bad. They do some weird things with the background sometimes, where they color outside the lines, and I guess it's kind of a stylistic choice. But one thing that they did is Amethyst has this really weird, like, they draw her lips really weird, and you get used to it over time. But I remember being kind of annoyed because, like, she was making duck face, and her face, she's like doing perpetual duck face, because they've drawn her lips like really large, and so she's always kind of doing that sort of thing. It just really bothered me. I don't know why it bothered me so much, but like Amethyst Duckface, for many episodes, I couldn't get over it. I had to see it. I had to get acclimated to seeing Amethyst Duckface before I was ready to accept it. But actually, though, when I first started watching Steven, I hated Steven. I thought that Steven was going to be the antagonist of every episode, and that he was going to be stupid and loud, and he was going to ask a lot of retarded questions for the audience. And you know, he like there's fish out of water type characters, but sometimes they're like really awful. Like I think about Titus in Final Fantasy X, where the game just picks up Titus and they just drop him in this brand new world, and instead of like walking around being like, oh man, like I don't know where I am, can you help me? And then like asking lots of questions, until eventually people just start explaining things like whether he asked them or not. He's running around, he's like, oh, I'm the star player of the Xanacan Abes, like, I love Blitzball, I love Blitzball, and I really would, like, and he's just, like, super annoying. He's like, come on, let's go laugh, Luna, let's go laugh out at the sea, and everyone will feel real embarrassed, and it's terrible, God, I'm cringy. So like, you don't have, like, a character who doesn't know anything doesn't necessarily have to be stupid. And starting off, Steven was our fish out of water. He didn't know anything about anything that was going on. And unfortunately, he was also playing the part of a stupid character. He was a stupid fish out of water. So he had this whole little bit, and the show felt like it was trying so hard to be quirky. And Steven had his little, like, a space cat, like he left his family behind, and he was repeating this, like, jingle for ice cream. And so the show opens up, and it's like, oh, Steven is a little boy with magical powers, but he doesn't know how to control them. And the plot feels rather cliched. He's like a little boy in the role of the magical girl, essentially, is what it is. And let's say, like, he finds out that his powers are controlled by his emotions somehow, and so the whole first episode is him, like, eating ice cream and being made happy by ice cream and finding that his powers are activated by the joy from ice cream. And so he keeps repeating this jingle, and like, it wasn't even a catchy jingle, like, and I really couldn't, like, I just, like, at the end of it, I was just like, man, I kind of hated that. Like, I kind of hate Steven. Like, there were some things that I liked. Like, I liked the gems a little bit. And I can't remember, though, the thing that I take away from those first episodes most distinctly was that Steven seemed like a terrible character, and I really didn't want to see any more of him. But I was encouraged to keep watching the show, and so I gave it a shot. And over the span of a few episodes, eventually you get into sort of an interesting reversal. Is Steven matures quite a lot, actually probably so fast that it would be unrealistic if it weren't for the fact that it feels like the writers kind of found their tread and their voice, and they figured out who Steven was. Like, at first they were writing a stereotype, and they were just like, oh yeah, Steven, stupid fish out of water. And then they did a couple episodes, and then maybe the director came in and was like, oh god, I don't know, he sounds so annoying, he's so awful. Like, can we mellow him out a little bit? Can we have him be less spastic and more, like, thoughtful, inquisitive, maybe a little precocious? Like, we'll say he's, originally he was supposed to be, like, I don't know, 6 or something, but let's make him, like, 12? I don't know. I'm not sure what happened, but it feels like the skill of the team behind the show developed, and then Steven kind of developed with them, and got to be a much more likable character. And so he kind of grows into being the glue for the show, and the cast, and everything else like that. And when Steven chills the heck out, it gives the other characters room to actually start to sort of be their own thing and not constantly be nannying him, and they get to start pronouncing flaws. And that's when the show gets interesting. That's when Steven quits being the source of all problems, and the other characters begin to make problems instead, so that we still have conflict in every episode. The characters start to develop, and you start to get attached to them, and you find out that Pearl, for example, winds up being a very funny and likable character, because Pearl is like this super neurotic lesbian space alien who's obsessed with her former leader, and Garnet is actually a pair of lesbians. Spoilers, by the way. Yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, I mean, I don't know. It's I guess it's a big spoiler, but I mean, it happens so routinely after the fact, I don't know how big of a spoiler it would be. It's not really a big deal. Like, you'll notice that they do the fusions a lot, and there's a couple of, like, really small hints that Garnet is actually 2 gems fused together. For example, you'll notice that she has 2 gems, like one on each hand. Yeah, there's lots of cues and hints, but yeah, Garnet, she's actually a lesbian. She's 2 lesbians fused together into one singular mono-lesbian. And then there's Amethyst, and Amethyst is, like, the little one. And, I guess that what you find out is that Amethyst is, she's stunted somehow. Something about her growth didn't work correctly, and so when they found her, she was all messed up. And so they were just like, that's okay, Amethyst, you can be anything that you want to be. And I get the impression as the show goes on that Amethyst feels rather condescended to, for the most part. Like, all the gems are like, oh, that's okay, Amethyst, you don't have to be a warrior. But Amethyst really wants to be a warrior, and so it's really upsetting to her to constantly be told, like, you don't need to be a warrior, you don't have to work really hard if you... And she's like, no, shut up, I'm gonna do it. So Amethyst becomes very likable as the show goes on, and every character kind of gets their time in the spotlight. What's weird about the show has been, though, as it's gone on, I've kind of had favorite characters change. Like, for a little while it was Pearl, and then for a little while it was Garnet, and for a little while it was Amethyst, and recently it's been Peridot, who's a more new addition to the show. And I think that the reason is because what they're doing is they're taking each of these characters that they have, and they're cycling focus on them, and they're humanizing each of the characters. So for a while, so as they focus on Pearl a lot, I got to really like Pearl. And then they got away from Pearl. They kind of put Pearl off to the side a little bit. She still has episodes, but she's not, in every episode for a little while. And they start to focus on Garnet. And, the fact that, Garnet is, 2 gems fused into one, and da-da-da-da-da. And so they focus on who Garnet is and what Garnet does. And so for a little while, you kind of get to like Garnet. She's got this, rather motherly sort of... she looks over Steven, or maybe not like a mother, more like an aunt, or something like that. There's a sort of filial bond between her and Steven. And then you move on to, Amethyst, and you find out, Amethyst has got all these insecurities. She really wants to be a soldier, but she's, tiny and doesn't have a lot of power, and she doesn't know how to, make up for that or anything like that. She's also not very smart, so, she's really she doesn't have a lot going for her, unfortunately. And then, later on, they meet this new gem named Peridot, and there's another gem named Lapis, and Lapis currently is my character that I dislike a lot. Because they haven't really focused on her or really done anything with her. I don't know, but backing up though, one of the things that they establish really early on is that Steven is actually the offspring of a gem, of a crystal gem. And the gems are space aliens. They are lesbian space aliens. They are all female. Or they're agender, but they sort of look female. They have female voices. They don't actually have tits. Like, people often draw them with tits, but they don't have they don't have boobs. The universe is lost, honestly, but they don't have boobs. They don't have to raise children, so they don't need them. They just have rather female figures. And they do this thing called fusion, which is when they combine their bodies into one single creature. And for a long time, we thought that the entire thing was like an allegory for sex, which was really funny until eventually Steven started fusing with people, and Steven is like 12. And then we were like, oh, maybe it's not like a total one-to-one allegory for sex. Especially because later on, eventually Amethyst fuses with Steven, and Amethyst is like way older than him. She's like an adult, Steven's like a child, and so it's like, yes, that probably wouldn't be okay if this was a direct one-to-one allegory for sex. Amethyst. No, he's too young. Although she's also pretty immature. Yeah, but they keep talking about like Steven's mother and all these things. Rose Quartz is the name of Steven's mother. And a lot of people develop theories, and this is one of the things that was great about the show as I was watching it develop, is as you're going through, you have a lot of questions about like they raise some things and they say like, yeah, this is going on and that's going on. And the show kind of feeds you these little, like, this impression that there's a bigger world out there and there's more things going on that you're not aware of as a viewer. And it kind of pulled me in a little bit. But I gotta confess that early on I said that the show was kind of overrated. And that's because as the show has revealed those hands, like as it's come out and been like, okay, this is who Rose really kind of is, you find out that they're actually a little bit disappointing. Like they throughout the early episodes, they keep talking about Rose Quartz, and they're like, Rose Quartz, like brilliant warrior, like philosopher, king of king, queen of queens, lesbian space rock of lesbian space rocks. I don't know, they just like, they hype her up and they puff her up and they make her sound so like brilliant and wise and caring and like thoughtful. But then they start doing these episodes where Steven's dad, who is named Greg, which is confusing sometimes when I'm trying to talk to people about Steven Universe. And they'll be like, Greg, and they'll be like, oh, I thought you were talking about yourself, because and I can't tell if that's. I'm like, yeah, like Greg's all run down, he doesn't know what he's doing with their life, and they're like, well, cheer up, Greg, you'll figure out where you're going in life. And I'm like, no, I'm talking about Steven Universe, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, well, we'll cheer up anyway, just in case. But yeah. So. So they start doing these like flashback episodes where they build up Rose, and then Greg starts telling Steven about Rose, and you flash back, and she's nothing like they say that she is. It's terrible. It's like Greg goes to talk to her, and he's like, hey, want to go get hot dogs? And she's all like, what is hot dog? Not exactly that kind of thing, but you just get this sort of like weird spaciness, like. He tries to have Rose look after a baby at one point, and she just lets the baby climb all the way to the top of like a Ferris wheel, and then she's just happily watching it. She's like, oh yeah, he climbed all the way up there. Like, he did really good. I'm so impressed with his climbing ability. And she'd been watching humans for like thousands of years, and there are people who really love the show. I'm sure you have some kind of defense. You can immediately leap to Rose's defense and be like, no, you don't understand. She's a lesbian space rock. Lesbian space rocks inherently don't understand that gravity and like impact is dangerous to babies. Even though their entire like their warfare is about like building hammers and knives and things like that, so they have a clear understanding. Because they're made of gems, they can't die unless their gems get shattered. But, like, their gems can still be, like, crushed. Like, falling from great distances, I'm sure, is still dangerous to them. Being crushed under heavy objects, I'm sure, still very dangerous. I don't know. It just, like, there's excuses you can make. But she comes across as just so stupid and so naive, especially for someone who's been on Earth for like thousands of years. Like every other creature on Earth, like if it falls from a very high place, it will die, excluding maybe like very small creatures. Like this is a simple, like observational thing that every single creature develops. I mean, like there's not like like very stupid animals are able to correlate like high place equals danger. Like, it's not, like, cats get stuck in trees. Like, I don't know. So for some reason, like, Rose doesn't make this connection. Like, she's not smart enough. And a lot, like, just, I don't know, when Greg talks about her, like, the more you find out about Rose, the more it sounds like she's a simpleton. And that everybody believed in her to the point that they blinded themselves. And this may be what the show is actually going for. But I don't know. I don't know, because sometimes the show just kind of lets me down. And Rose might be one of those cases, but maybe we might find out later on. Like, there's still enough openness, and we still have learned very little about Rose, because we've had one episode where one of Rose's enemies actually sat down and talked to Steven for a while and explained, like, Rose was horrible. Like, they have a whole episode like that, where just this other character's like, you don't understand. Like, Rose Quartz was, like, the worst gem. Like, if she's still alive, like, she needs to be killed. Like, on the honor of everyone who came from her line, like, she must be destroyed. So we've had one interaction like that. And it gives me hope. I kind of hope that the show will later go on and kind of, maybe, like, justify why Rose is the way that she is a bit. I'm not sure if it will, though. Because, like I say, another thing that they did that was really weird is I was kind of digging Greg Universe as the show was going on. Like, you find out that, like, Greg, he kind of lives in a van. Like, he doesn't have any real life prospects. And the impression that you get is, like, Rose gave up her life to give birth to Steven. And it seems like Greg Universe gave up his life for Rose. And so there's this kind of trade where, like, Greg's like, oh, well, I gave up my life to be with you. Like, he was a musician or something like that. And he was, like, he was doing, like, crappy 80s rock ballads, like, in the 90s. And yeah, so he meets Rose, and he's like, well, forget it, what, I'm done. I'm not moving anywhere. Like, I'm not going on any more tours. Like, I want to be with this woman right here. And I remember watching this show, and I brought up the point, like, I was like, do you remember Steven's, like, Giant Woman song? And do you remember, like when Greg told his manager, he's like, no, I've met a beautiful woman. And then the guy goes, how big is she, Greg? And he's like, like 9 feet tall. And he's like, oh, and he's just, like, mad. It comes across as a fetish thing. Like, Steven, like, Greg Universe has a fetish for, like, large women and aliens and things like that. So he first hits her, and I guess he's just like, oh, this is my fetish. And it's kind of a sex thing. And that was a little funny, like, when I first saw it, and I first thought it was like, oh, that's kind of comedic, like, Greg Universe, like, this sex thing, like, he's just like, ooh, like, big, she's a big woman, I gotta have that in my life. So he kind of gives up what he's doing, and he goes, and I thought that what he did is I thought that he opened a washing place for cars, a car washing place. I thought that he opened a car washing place, like he took out a loan and opened up a car washing place, and now he's just trying to make ends meet. But turns out that no, he actually works, like, on a wage, like he's employed at a car washing place, and he has been ever since Steven was born. So Greg was kind of an interesting character because he, like, had all this history with the crystal gems, and, like, it was the most interesting thing in his life. And he had a whole episode where him and Amethyst were, like, just hanging out in this storage garage, like, watching TV. And they were kind of joking, and they insinuated at one point they might have had kind of a thing. Because Amethyst, like, turned into Rose. And Greg got really upset. And he's like, I told you, like, don't do that anymore. Like, it's not okay. I'm not okay with it. And then Amethyst is like, but you're more willing to hang out with me if I'm like this. And he's like, no, like, it's not okay. It's not good. It's not healthy. So there was some implied stuff, maybe some deep stuff going on between them that's implied, and, like, I kind of like that. And it's one of those things that made me curious, like, what was going on after Rose died? What was going on with him and Amethyst? Some people in the fandom, I recall, like, I saw some comics that were like, like, they were trying to salvage it, because one of the things that people really like about this show is that all the characters are, like, gay. And so when it was implied that maybe Amethyst might not be, like, just, like, super hard gay, I remember there being comics where people were trying to be like, no. The reason she became Rose and, like, they had this emotional thing going on was because Amethyst was super jealous that Rose was being stolen away. And it's not really what the episode seemed to be implying, as far as I could tell. I'm pretty sure that Amethyst thought Greg was cool, for some reason. I mean, like, he was super lame, but he came across as, like, he was, like, grungy like she was. He was like, oh, I want to play guitar. And she was like, oh, yeah, guitar's cool. And just all these kind of things. He was sort of like a wash-up, but so was she a little bit. Like, he wasn't achieving his dreams, but neither was she. And I think she was just kind of into him. Like, she just kind of dug Greg. And she wanted to spend time with him. And then maybe she started transforming into his wife, and things got a little uncomfortable. So after a while, like, maybe that seemed like a good, like, oh, I need this. And then after a while, it was like, oh, I shouldn't need this. This is not good. That was my impression. I think that is the most plausible option. But yeah, but Greg was that character. He was just this sort of, like, washed up, like, he didn't have a lot of future. And then one episode, completely out of the blue, $10 million just lands in his hands. And this is what I talk about when I say, like, this show, like, a little overrated. Just it's going great. I'm really happy with the character. And then, like, Greg just gets $10 million. And the explanation they give, and this is what was really stupid, was they show the amount of money that he received. And it was $10 million. Like, there was an actual sum written out. You could read it, $10 million. And then the guy goes, yeah, like, one of your crappy rock ballads got picked up by, like, Burger King or something like that. And these are the royalties that I owe you for, like, for these commercials. And so I looked it up, and I was like, okay, like, how much do song composers get in royalties? Like, how much could Greg Universe realistically get? And so I found a lawsuit related to Stairway to Heaven that stated that the total lifetime royalties attributed to Stairway to Heaven was worth like $60 million or something like that. That's Stairway to Heaven. That's the entire lifetime of the song. Royalties paid to the artist that wrote it. $60 million. So the assumption that you have to make based on this scene, this $10 million for here's this commercial, is that this ad campaign was a sixth as popular, in the time that it ran, was 1/6 the lifetime popularity of Stairway to Heaven. like whatever company it was that bought this song from Greg, they ran that commercial into the ground. Like, people probably kill themselves when this commercial comes on. They're like, oh no, not again. Like, not another Greg's Universe. Buy my hamburgers. Oh god. And because they would have to, like, be playing it like 3 times. It would have to be like the world's biggest ever ad campaign to get $10 million. And I can't fathom why they did this, because, like, the only story reason to give Greg $10 million later on was because he rents a boat, and I guess they wanted some excuse for him to be able to pay for the boat once it gets wrecked. I mean, like, I don't know if, like, later on they're going to have some reason to want to give Greg $10 million, but story-wise, it was just sort of like, it feels about as bad, like, it felt as bad. It didn't, like, linger because Greg Universe is a side character, but, like, imagine, like to take an analog with, like, My Little Pony, like, suppose instead of Twilight Sparkle becoming, like, a princess, like, what if, like, Mrs. Cake became a princess? And so the writers weren't really, like, obligated to do anything with it, you know? It was just sort of like, yeah, Pinky works with Mrs. Cake, and Mrs. Cake is, like, the princess of friendship now. And then they didn't blow up the treehouse, they blew up the bakery that Pinky lives in, and then Mrs. Cake had to move into, like, the Crystal Tree Palace, and Twilight just kept on living, like, Twilight was, like, just, like, our main character. So, you know, so I don't know, it's just sort of like Greg, like, he just became a princess, but he's, like, a side character, so it's like Princess Greg. And, after that happened, I feel like I don't know, the writers didn't seem to know, they were just, like, kind of, like, looking around and, like, so what? Like, $10 million? Like, he's a millionaire now? Like, because right after they gave him all that money, they did a whole episode where he was like, gee, I mean, like, I don't know what to do with this money. And Steven was like, why don't you buy a house? And Greg's like, well, I already own a van. And that irritated me a little bit, because I feel like if a man's going to be given $10 million, and his plan is to, I don't know, like, stuff it under his mattress, and then, like, and under his mattress, like, he's just gonna sleep in a van, like, I don't know, $10 million is a great deal of responsibility, and, I mean, like, I guess it's characteristically irresponsible for him to just not spend it. But yeah, but the means by which this character got his money was just completely ludicrous. The amount of money he was given, completely ludicrous. And then his reaction to having the money, also completely ludicrous. He went about not buying anything and not changing his life in any way whatsoever. And he continues to work at the car wash. Like, I don't know. I don't understand it. Greg Universe. They were like, well, we should go somewhere. We should have some kind of payoff with this like music career thing. I know Greg just makes $1 billion from nothing. That's what they did. And what was especially funny too about that is we were talking about that. We'd be like, because Greg didn't know that his song was being played. He didn't know that he was owed any royalties. So what was especially hilarious about that was the fact that like. He should have known. Like someone should have seen like that commercial would have been playing in like multiple countries all the time. Like for Greg to not see it, he would have to never pass by a television. Because we're talking about like, I don't know, anywhere at all where there's a TV. Like maybe Greg has never even seen a TV in Beach City. But like it would be on every station. Like a sixth is popular Stairway to Heaven. Just, you know, you would know. Yeah. So anyway, so there's that. Another thing that they did is they actually had the gems from Homeworld, is the crystal gems, because they're aliens. They come from a homeworld, a mother planet. And at one point, other gems actually come down to check some things out. And this is where we get our characters Peridot. It's also kind of where Lapis comes from, but I don't know anything about Lapis, and so far I don't really like her as a character. She's mopey and kind of obnoxious, so I don't know. I expect that the show is eventually going to turn around and start to focus on Lapis and be like, here's why you should like this character, and then maybe I'll like her more. But currently, my impression is just that she's sort of annoying and antisocial, and I don't really like her very much. I haven't been introduced to the character in any way that would make me like her, so I'm waiting for that to happen. But Peridot. Peridot, I think, has developed into the character that I like more than any of the other characters. Like, for a while, like, I liked Pearl, and, like, I liked Garnet, and I liked Amethyst, but I just, like, love Peridot to death. Like, she's so adorable. A good comparison I've seen on the internet is that she's essentially like a cat with opposable thumbs. Like, she just runs around, she gets into stuff, and she, like, just builds things, and she's so proud of everything that she does, and she really likes Steven. And so, like, she does these incredibly stupid, like, weird things, and then she just wants to show Steven. She's, like, really nervous, and she wants everyone to think that she's really smart. And, like, there's this scene, like, just cracks me up. She learns that she has, like, the ability to, like, she has, like, magnetic powers, so she can, like, levitate metal. And so she's just like, she finds out about this, and this is like a triumphant new thing. Like, you may as well have told her that she had the power to harness suns, because she treats it like that. She's just like, I am now a god, and it's not like she can't like levitate the metal well or anything like that. There's not like a lot of control. It's just she's so excited because she didn't know she had this power, and now she's just incrementally stronger, like in a really minor way, and she's just so like, oh, like kneel, I'll kneel before me, and yeah, she's just adorable. Love this character to death, Peridot. But Peridot introduces another thing that was like a really big deal, as she explained that there's this cluster. She goes, yeah, there's the cluster. Like, this was a gem experiment, and when the cluster emerges, it'll destroy the whole planet. And so they're building this up, and they have all these episodes about how do we get to the cluster and then stop it. Like, we have to get to the cluster, and then we have to stop the cluster. Like, it's so crucially important. And then they get down to the cluster, and they pull, like, a Cosgrove from Freakazoid on it. And this, like, people warned me before I saw it that this was going to happen, so I wasn't, like, too upset. But if you haven't seen Freakazoid, they had this character named Cosgrove. And he was like a cop. He was like an old cop, and they'd not draw his eyes because he was always like really frowny looking. And like if something was going on and Cosgrove wanted to do something else, like if people would walk, like they would do some kind of crime, like Cosgrove would just kind of like walk on screen and be like, hey, cut it out. And he would be like super serious about it, and so the criminals would just feel bad, and they would like, you know, whatever they were stealing, they would put it back, or they would just abandon their little B plot and be like, oh, okay. And like that's how Cosgrove would like, he would remedy minor problems or even sometimes major ones if he really wanted to. Like there would just be something going on, and then Cosgrove would just be like, cut it out, like stop, and then they'd be like, oh, they would quit. So Steven, he pulls a Cosgrove. Like, he goes down to the cluster, and the cluster's like, I am going to emerge and destroy the planet. And then Steven's just like, hey, cut it out. And the cluster's like, aw, well, okay. And that's it. That's it. He defeats it. He's just like, it's got nothing. Can't, but like that was it. They built it up, and then like anticlimax. They Cosgroved it. Like, but how? Why? I don't know. Like, it's just Steven Universe. Why? I don't know. They seem to want to put a lot of emphasis on non-violent stuff, and I was actually starting to get annoyed. By about the time they did that with the cluster, like, Steven seems to be resolving almost all of his conflicts non-violently, and by the time they got to the cluster, I was starting to get a little tired of it. But fortunately, apparently the writers also felt the same way, because then we've gone on and we've gotten in some situations that Steven hasn't been able to talk his way out of. And so they've kind of had a bit of a reversal on that, and they've, said like, oh, okay, well sometimes Steven is actually going to have to, like, take his gloves off. So that's good. I mean, like I say, while I say the show is overrated, it's still a great show. And that's good, and I'm enjoying it. But there's one last thing that I'd like to talk about before I wrap up, and that's the side characters in Steven Universe. And they're really weird. Like, they're a little bit likable, but also a little bit hollow a lot of times. And sometimes I'm really annoyed when we have to have an episode about the side characters, because many of them are very, very monodimensional. And they're also, like, selectively stupid. And they're selectively stupid in a way it's like trying to come across as quirky, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I gotta give an example. Like, there are times when I kind of care about things, like when they have, like, there's this character like Sadie and Lars, and I'm kind of interested in their little, like, they have this little relationship, and it sounds like Lars and Sadie are having sex. Like, it's all heavily implied. You know, it's a kid's show, but it's heavily implied. It's like Lars keeps coming over, and Sadie, and then he doesn't want to, like, own her. Like, you know, she's short, and she's maybe not very attractive or something. I don't know. She's a cartoon. I can't tell. But she's like short and a little bit nerdy. And Lars kind of doesn't want to own the fact that he's seeing her, or that he's in a relationship with her. He doesn't want to commit to the fact, and so he keeps coming over to sleep with her. And then he turns around and he acts like a jerk. And so, you know, she's mad to see him. Like, he, like, comes over to her house, and he's like, oh, you know, like, well, look who's here again. Like, you know, what do you, like, you get an itch, you need me to scratch it. Like, great. And so she's starting to get, like, frustrated with him. And that kind of thing I sort of like, because there's a little bit of, you know, there's conflict there. There's some back and forth and stuff like that. But then other characters are kind of like, I don't know, like, the whole pizza family. Like, they had a whole episode where one sister in the family that owns the pizza restaurant is, like, upset because her other sister keeps, like, asking, like, hey, can you take my shift? And she's like, yeah. So they do this whole episode about this, and it's kind of like, I don't know, like, it was just kind of about this moral, and, like, the sisters just doing their pizza thing, and, like, that's all that they do. And there's also this weird thing, like, there's a character named Connie, who's, like, this little girl that Steven is, like, friends with. He befriends her, and a lot of people want to have them be, like, dating, and I always kind of dislike this. Like, I feel like when you write relationships, like, you should be fair with them, and you should accept that there's failure in relationships. Like, it's an important lesson. I mean, like in Avatar: The Last Airbender, like, Aang and Katara, in canon they actually hook up and they stay hooked up. And that always really bugged me, because Aang was like 12 and Katara was like 14, and she was like really aggressive and he was like really passive. And I felt like they would have clashed, like, in a normal situation. Like, good team, sure, but, like, as lovers, they probably would have stepped on each other's toes a lot. It really bothered me that they hooked up. Like, I didn't like that. I was just like, they must have hated each other through their entire marriage. It must have been miserable. Didn't feel like a happy union in my head. But I believe it probably was, because they just wrote it to be one. So Steven and Connie, same thing. It's like they're kids, you know. I mean, like, they don't know who they are. They haven't developed into their own individual people. So I don't see any, like, people draw them as, like, adults, like, living harmoniously together. But honestly, like, Steven has no education. You know, like, he's not as high-strung as Connie. Sometimes he doesn't really, like, understand her or where she's coming from, because he's so distant from who she is or where she is, but it kind of works anyway, just because. I don't know, Connie, like, this is Steven's friend Connie. But Connie has parents And there's a whole episode, like, Connie's parents don't like Steven, and I think it's because he's surrounded by all this magical stuff, which they perceive as dangerous. And they have an episode so that the parents won't be a problem. And it was super stupid, because, like, it followed this weird, like, the side characters are selectively stupid, where, like, things happen, like a meteor could strike the city, and if, like, Steven got up there and was like, everyone, this is not a meteor, this is just a very large golf ball, like, everyone would be like, oh okay. And they would kind of, like, walk away, and it can be a little bit comedic sometimes, but when it's, like, a major pivotal, like, plot point, it feels like they're abusing the meta of their own universe. Because what they do is, it turns out that Connie's mom is a doctor, and there are these gems that are like weird abominations that are like surfacing, and they get taken to the hospital because what they are is they look like people, like they're just like a whole collection of arms or things like that, or like two people stuck together, you know. And so Connie's mom is like a doctor, and she's like, well, gee, like, I've never seen a car crash victim this bad. And she's treating them like car crash victims. She's been looking after these people for like a day or something like that. And they have no heartbeat. They have no head. Like, there's an arm where their head is supposed to be. Like, by all rights, this should be a thing of horror. Like, when this gets wheeled into your hospital, this is not the type of thing where the doctors all nod their heads and go, oh, yes, that's a terrible car accident. They would say, this is not human. This is a beast of many arms. It has no heartbeat, and yet it still lives. It has no way to, like, inhale oxygen. It doesn't poop. I'm not seeing a butt on this thing. Like, there's just, you know, there's so many reasons why there's, like, doctors should not look at this creature and say, like, oh yes, this is a man. Like how, like, I don't know, you just have to be so stupid. But Connie's mom does this. She's like, yes, all these patients here are in very bad shape. Why, they're in such bad shape they don't even have heads. And so Connie and Steven go to the hospital, and these abominations, like, wake up, and they run around and they're, like, trying to, like, murder people. And Connie's mom, for some reason, still doesn't, like, understand that they're abominations. She's still trying to treat them like patients. And then eventually Connie is like, no, Mom, they're actually monsters, and I can fight them, me and Steven together. And, you know, they do, and they defeat these things, and then Steven's mom is like, oh, Connie, I so underestimated you. And, boy, that episode, I did not take that episode well. I was just like, what? First of all, if I was that mom, I would know the difference between this and second of all, if I had just borne witness to this, I would be even less likely to let my child hang out with the magical girl boy. Like, no, it's not acceptable. It's not okay. Like I just don't know. I don't know. Steven Universe, great show, but a little overrated. Great show, but a little overrated. So, I don't know, because it wasn't like played for laughs either. This is the thing that was super weird, is they set the atmosphere to be like, you know, a little bit of a horror element type thing, and you just can't do that. Like, you can have somebody be outlandishly stupid to be funny. Like, if Connie's mom was like a hook, you know, they're all car crash accidents, and they just kept, like, doing it for laughs. If it was like a thing where they were, like, trying to hide the fact. And, like, it should have been so obvious from square one, but they're just doing a bit where, like, Connie's mom's like, oh, let me get the stethoscope. That's funny, no heartbeat. And, you know, she's running around. But she's supposed to be, like, this intelligent, like, career woman. and then the whole thing is played as, like, a horror. So it's like, imagine, like, the zombie apocalypse or something like that. Or imagine Hellraiser. Like, if Pinface, like, if they wheeled Pinface into the hospital, and then he was just sitting there, and he, like, they're like, oh my, like, this is a lot of pins in your face. Like, that's probably not healthy. And then Pinface, like, eviscerated one of the orderlies, and they were like, oh gosh, yeah. No, I've seen that before. Pin and face disease often leads to eviscerating the orderlies. Tell the orderlies to wear gloves. You know, like, yeah, I don't know. It would both undermine, when you do it that way, it undermines Pinface because it makes him seem like a comedy, and it undermines the doctor because it makes them seem like really stupid. So Connie's mom, like, being too stupid to realize these abominations were abominations, it undermined the abominations because it was kind of comical how stupid Connie's mom was. And it undermined Connie's mom because it made her look like super stupid. So I don't know. I don't know what they were like. I don't know. Like I say, they just do things. They're not always 100% spot on this show, but it's been a fun show. Been a popular show, worth checking out. So yeah. So anyway, this is quite a bit of ranting on Steven Universe. So we'll go ahead and I'll wrap it up here. Thanks for joining me, everybody. I will catch you all next time.